The first message doesn't ask you for anything. It lands on a Tuesday morning and it reads like somebody fumbled a contact. "Hi, Amy. Are we still on for the 3 p.m. walkthrough?" You are not Amy, so you do the polite thing and tell them they have the wrong number. That reply is the entire point of the message, and you just gave it to them for free. Think about what a reply actually proves. It proves the number is live, that a real person reads it, and that this person answers strangers politely. FinCEN's alert from September 8, 2023 describes exactly this pattern. First contact arriving by text or a social message with no pitch attached. The absence of an ask is what makes it work, because there is nothing there for you to refuse. And this is not a rare piece of bad luck that happened to find your phone. The FTC's Data Spotlight from April 2025 ranked the top tech scams of 2024, and the wrong number opener sits right there among them, a named category with its own line. That means the message you got was not written for you. It was written for a list, and you were on it. Here's the cost of a category most people never bother to name. Americans reported $470 million in losses in 2024 from scams that began with a text message. That's the tail end of thousands of conversations that started exactly the way yours did, with a friendly stranger and no request. The money doesn't move in the first message. It moves because the first message worked. So the wrong number isn't a mistake. It's a screening step, and it runs in a fixed order. Blast the list, keep the numbers that answer, then start a conversation that has nothing to do with money for days or weeks. By the time an investment ever comes up, you're no longer a stranger on a list. You're someone they've been talking to. The screening already happened and you passed it. So you sent the polite correction and that should have been the end of it. Instead, you get an apology, a small joke, and a question about your day, and now there's a conversation. FinCEN's alert on this pattern describes exactly this. Criminals building fictitious identities with elaborate backstories, using relationship pretext to keep the target talking. The person in our reconstruction calls herself Mia Tan, and for the next several weeks, she is going to be the most consistent presence in your phone. Nothing happens quickly, and that's deliberate. The first week is small talk, the second week she sends a photo of her dinner, and by the third week she knows your sister's name and you know she lost her father young. FinCEN describes these operations investing weeks or months building the relationship before any financial ask, because the ask only works if it arrives inside something that already feels real. Therefore, the product being manufactured here isn't a fake platform yet. It's your habit of picking up the phone when her name appears. And she never asks you for anything. No sob story, no emergency, no request for a loan, which is the part that disarms people who think they'd see a scam coming. The CFTC's advisory on this describes the persona she's playing, the successful trader, comfortable, generous, someone who clearly does not need your money. That's the whole point. A person who wants nothing from you is a person you stop guarding against. Instead, her life just happens near you. She mentions a good month. She mentions her uncle in Singapore who taught her how to read the market. She says something offhand about a position closing well, then changes the subject back to your day, and she does not bring it up again for another week. Therefore, by the time trading enters the conversation as a topic, you aren't being pitched. You're the one asking questions. So, who is actually on the other end of that friendly thread? Almost certainly not one bored con artist with a burner phone. The UN Office on Drugs and Crime put out a report in April 2025 called Inflection Point, and it describes something closer to an industry, fortified compounds across Southeast Asia running cyber-enabled fraud at a scale UNO DC estimates in the tens of billions of dollars a year, with regional losses reaching up to $37 billion, which means the person texting you about crypto is doing a job with a quota, a shift, and a manager. Once you see it as an industry, the structure follows. UNO DC describes a layered operation, syndicate bosses at the top, then compound operators who rent out floor space and internet, then recruiters who feed people in, and at the bottom, the workers who actually run the scripts and send the texts. The person typing to you sits on the lowest rung of that tree, and many of them are there because they answered a fake job ad and had their passport taken. Therefore, the warmth in those messages isn't a personal talent. It's a work product, generated to a standard someone above them enforces. That trafficking piece is what turns this from a crime story into something uglier. UNODC found that many workers are held against their will, with debt bondage, confiscated documents, and physical punishment used to hit targets. So the person you might want to yell at is often being punished when you stop replying. None of that gets your money back, and it doesn't mean you owe them a conversation, but it does explain why they never break character, even when you push. And the compounds are no longer just a Mekong problem. ONOTC's 2025 finding is that as governments raided sites in Myanmar and Cambodia, the operators spread outward instead of shutting down, setting up in Africa, South America, the Middle East, and Pacific Islands with weak enforcement. Therefore, the phone number that texted you may route through a country that has no working channel to the police in yours. That's the practical reason these cases stall. The money leaves in minutes, and the people running it move jurisdictions before anyone filed a report. Here's the part that matters for you, and it's the reason the FBI built something specific for this. Operation Level Up has agents comb through data on cryptocurrency investment fraud, identify people who are actively being scammed and don't know it yet, and call them before the next deposit goes out. The FBI reports the effort has notified thousands of victims and prevented hundreds of millions of dollars in further losses. So there is a version of this story where someone reaches you mid-fall. But the odds are far better if you're the one who notices first, which is exactly what the next part is about. So look at what she's watching by week 6. The platform shows an opening deposit of $500 that has grown to a little over $8,000, and the curve is beautiful. It never dips more than a few percent, it always recovers by morning, and every time she checks it, it's a little higher than the last time. That smoothness is the first thing that should worry you, because real crypto markets do not move like a staircase. The line she's looking at is tracking a script. There's no market behind it at all. The FBI says this in plain language on its cryptocurrency investment fraud page. The apparent profits shown on these platforms do not represent a real investment. There is no trade behind that number, no position anyone is holding for her, nothing being bought or sold. It's a web page the criminals wrote, and they can type any figure into it they want. Therefore, the thing to understand is who is holding what. Her real money went out through a wallet address to people she has never met, and that transfer is finished. What she got back was login credentials to a dashboard those same people own, host, and edit. The gain and the loss are two completely separate things, not two sides of one account. Only one of them involves actual money. Which means the growing balance has a job, and the job is to get more money out of her. The FBI ran an operation called Level Up specifically because of this pattern, contacting people who were still actively depositing into platforms that looked profitable. The bigger the fake number climbs, the more reasonable the next deposit feels, because she's not risking $500 anymore in her head, she's protecting $8,000. That's the trick. The profit isn't the bait for a future scam, the profit is the scam already running. So when she finally decides to take some of it out, nothing about her is careless. She's been careful for 6 weeks. She's checked the balance daily, she's asked good questions, and every answer arrived within the hour from someone patient and warm. That's the state of mind she's in when she taps withdraw, and that is the exact moment the platform stops behaving like a platform. So you hit withdraw, because that was always the plan, and the platform says yes. Then it says one more thing. There's a tax to clear before the funds release, or a network fee, or a minimum balance you have to top up to unlock the account, and every one of those is a screen written by the same people who wrote the balance. The FBI's guidance on cryptocurrency investment fraud describes exactly this stage, where victims are told they must pay additional fees to get their money out, which means the request to withdraw isn't the end of the scam, it's the last deposit they're trying to get out of you. And this is not a handful of people who got unlucky. In 2024, the FBI's Internet Crime Complaint Center logged about $5.8 billion in reported losses to cryptocurrency investment fraud, and that's the whole category, not just the wrong number texts. Reported is the word doing the work there, because most people never file at all, so the real figure sits somewhere above it. The number that matters to you is the one on your own account, but the scale tells you what you're up against. This is an industry with staffing, scripts, and quotas. Here's the distinction people miss when they try to explain this to a bank or a family member. A real market loss means the money went somewhere and the value fell. This is different because the platform was a display, so there was never a position, never a trade, and the balance was a picture of money that didn't exist. That's why the withdrawal doesn't fail like a bad investment fails. It fails like a locked door, and the person holding the key is the one who built the room. So what actually happens in the hours after the door locks? The account manager stays warm at first, because a calm victim pays one more fee, then the tone hardens, then the chat goes quiet and the site stops loading. Somewhere in that window is the only leverage you have left, which is speed, contacting your bank or exchange while the transfer is still traceable. and filing at ice3.gov with the wallet addresses, the phone number, and every screenshot you still have. It won't feel like enough. It is the step that turns your case into a record investigators can actually follow, and it's the reason that $5.8 billion figure exists at all. So here's the stopping point I promised you at the top, and it's earlier than you'd think. Not the withdrawal screen. Not the moment the fee gets invented. It's the very first message, the one that looked like a misdial, because the whole operation needs you to answer it. The FBI's own guidance for cryptocurrency investment fraud starts from the same place. The second you suspect it, stop sending money. Every deposit after that point is just the next installment on somebody's payroll. But stopping is only the first of 4 things, and the other 3 decide whether anyone can actually chase this. Save everything before you delete anything, because the screenshots, the wallet addresses, and the chat history are the case file, and people delete them out of embarrassment before they ever call. Then tell the institution the money left through, your bank or the exchange, because they are the only ones who can flag or freeze what's still in motion, and report it to IC3 at ic3@ice3.gov, which is where the FBI actually collects these so patterns across victims can be linked. 4 moves, and every one of them gets harder the longer you wait. And I want to be blunt about the part people skip, which is the reporting. Most of this never gets filed, because filing means saying out loud that it happened to you. But a single report is one wallet address, and 1,000 reports is a network, and IC3 is the desk where those get stacked against each other. You are not writing a confession when you file, you are handing over a piece of somebody else's map. Which brings us back to that first text, the one that said, "Sorry, wrong number." Nobody in this story got fooled by a bad website or a sloppy lie, because the platform looked real and the balance went up on schedule. What actually opened the door was a polite reply to a stranger, and that is the one part of the machine you control completely. So the habit is simple, and it costs you nothing. A wrong number text gets no answer, it gets deleted. And if one already got an answer and money already moved, take those 4 steps today and file it at ice3.gov, because the case only exists if somebody reports it.